welcome back. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the topic, as you can see, is about obedience, and I'm gonna talk about the podcast. And that I started my journey with Christ in December. However, of course, I didn't realize until after I started my journey with God that all of the things that I enjoy doing are all gifts and talents that God has given me. So the creative gifts that God has given me, I got the idea of doing a podcast. I want to say early summer of 2022. It's so funny because it took me almost a year and a half to actually start doing my podcast. But going back, he gave me the idea of doing a podcast, and when he gave me the idea, he didn't give me the name or anything like that. The name came later on that year. But he gave me the idea of doing a podcast early summer in 2022. And when he gave me the idea, that of course the idea was strictly for me to do the podcast. But me being the person that I am, I brought the idea up to my cousin, and of course, that it was a great idea. Let's do it. Everybody, brought the idea up to, it was something that they were interested in, but it never went past the just being interested level. And saying that you'll do something with somebody and actually doing something with somebody is completely different. That's just kind of what it was. They said that they would do it, but it never really went past there. So I gave up on it. Time went by, I want to say maybe September. I brought the idea up to my homegirl, and she was really really interested in it. For a while, we even filmed one episode doing it together, but nothing was going right in that for that day that we recorded. She was late, the audio was awful. It was just a lot going on. But prior to that, it took us a while to be able to get on one accord to be able to actually film that one episode. We have been talking about it for months. Brought the idea up to her. She was all for it or whatever. And although she was all for it, as far as the topic ideas, the creating intros, coming up with the names, all of the important stuff, I did all of that by myself, and again, that's no shade or anything. It's just I don't want to say that nobody took it as seriously as I did, because I can't say what people take seriously and don't take seriously because I'm not them. But and that's fine, because the things that I was doing, I enjoyed doing, so it was no, like I said, no hard feelings or anything like that. But from then, I noticed that it was chaotic, just chaotic. Coming up with all these ideas. I came up with the name Outside to Isolation because that's literally my story. That's literally my life. I literally went from being outside every day to isolation. Nobody was seeing me and was like, "Are you alive?" I literally just checked out. I literally went from being outside to completely isolated. Nobody could contact me. I was off social media. It's kind of like I disappeared from the world. to work on myself, to pursue my relationship with God. Like, God had me in isolation period. So I think the name just fits. It just fits. Like, when I got the name, like, it was just like fireworks just went off. Like, I knew that was the name. Like, out of all the names that I thought of, like, from there it was just like up. Like, everything else just like all these other ideas that you'll see, you know, later on throughout my journey, literally they all came at one time. When I got the name, I got different ideas for different things, you know. So yeah. I don't want to speak too much on it. Like I said, months go by and the hype is there, you know. Wanted to do the podcast with my homegirl. The hype was definitely there. It just was, for a while, no action was being taken, you know, to actually pursue it, to make the dream a reality. We eventually were able to meet up and film at my old apartment, and like I said, it was just very chaotic. The video itself was very chaotic. I don't feel like it reflected where I was in life. It didn't reflect what I wanted and what I knew this podcast was supposed to be. It just, and again, it's no shade or anything, it gave it was more so like a kind of like a vlog, and it didn't reflect like I don't know, it didn't reflect where I was in my life. I was in a state of isolation, yet the conversation was not, you know, it was a lot. And we both agreed at that time that, you know, it was just we just didn't like the video. You know, we scheduled to record so many times, and it never worked. It never worked. Why it didn't work, it doesn't really matter. I know now that was definitely God. And it's really hard for me took me a while to actually be on board with doing this by myself, because I felt bad